The desert planet of Relief had always been a place few humans dared to tread. Jagged cliffs rose like the teeth of some ancient beast, and the wind carried the harsh cries of creatures that only evolved to survive in extremes. Yet a settlement had sprung near the largest oasis, not for comfort, but for strategic importance. The alien species that dominated Relief, known as the Arvani, were feared across the sector. Their queen ruled with unyielding authority, and any who opposed her faced swift and merciless judgment. It was in this tense environment that Kale, a human medic, found himself. Kale was neither a soldier nor a hero in anyone's eyes. He carried no weapons, wore no armor, and had little more than his medical pack and his wits. He had come to Relief following the rumors of the Arvani's secretive biolabs, drawn by the opportunity to learn and the promise of payment. Though survival was never guaranteed, on the third day of his cautious journey through the oasis cliffs, Kale heard a sound that made him freeze. A scream, not human, but filled with a strange resonance that tugged at instincts he could not name. Curiosity outweighed fear, and Kale followed the sound, careful to stay hidden among the jagged rocks. There, in a narrow canyon, he saw her. A young Arvani, her scales dulled and marred by fresh wounds, her wings trembling as if the wind itself might tear her apart. She was the queen's daughter, no doubt, and no one dared approach her. A dozen patrols would have shot any human on sight, yet here she was, injured and alone. Kale's heart pounded. There was no one to help her, and the risk of being discovered was enormous. Yet he felt an inexplicable pull. He crouched behind a rock, analyzing her injuries. Deep gashes ran across her shoulder and torso. Burns scorched the delicate membrane of her wings, and her breathing was ragged. If she did not receive care soon, she would die. He took a deep breath and slowly stepped out from cover. "I'm here to help," he said, his voice low but steady. The Arvani girl's golden eyes snapped open, and for a moment Kale thought she would lash out. Instead, she studied him warily, her head tilting slightly, as if testing him. Kale ignored the fear rising in his chest and moved closer, placing his medical pack on the sand. "I won't hurt you. I just want to clean your wounds." Her gaze softened just enough to allow him to approach. Time seemed to slow as he worked, carefully disinfecting the lacerations, applying bandages with the precision that had saved countless human lives. He marveled at the intricate biology of her species, the way the veins in her wings glowed faintly when exposed to light, the delicate patterns that mapped the strength of her body. "You are human," she said finally, her voice a musical resonance, almost vibrating in the canyon walls. "Yes," Kale replied. "I know you are in pain. I can help if you let me." For long moments she watched, and then allowed him to touch the deeper injuries, pressing gently where he needed to clean and stitch. Kale's hands moved methodically, but he could feel the tension in her body, the constant readiness to strike. It was clear she had been trained to fight from birth, and now vulnerable. She had only instinct and fear to rely upon. Hours passed, and by the time Kale finished the first phase of treatment, the sun was setting. Shadows stretched across the canyon floor, painting everything in harsh orange and deep violet. The Arvani girl leaned back, exhausted, her wings drooping. "Why? Help me?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. "No one dares touch me." Kale shrugged, offering a small smile. "Because I can. Because someone has to. Because sometimes survival is worth the risk." She studied him for a long while, and then something shifted. Her wings lifted slightly, a gesture almost like acceptance. For the first time, Kale saw vulnerability in someone who had been trained to hide it at all costs. That night, Kale kept watch, improvising a small shelter from the jagged rocks. The desert wind was cold, but the fire he managed to kindle offered warmth. The girl slept fitfully, flinching at every distant sound. Kale could not sleep, not with the knowledge that the queen would discover her absence soon, and his presence alone could mean death. Yet for some reason he did not fear it. Fear was a luxury for those who had everything to lose. Kale had only his skills, and that was enough. Dawn came with a chorus of alien cries. The girl stirred, opening her eyes to find Kale still awake. "You stayed?" she asked. "I did," he said simply. "I am not leaving." Her eyes narrowed. "Why?" "No one survives the Queen's wrath if she discovers a human has touched her daughter." Kale looked at her calmly. "Because I have nothing to lose. That makes me stronger than fear itself." Her gaze lingered, and for a moment, Kale could almost sense gratitude mingled with something else. Something more primal and unspoken. The following days were a test of endurance. Kale had to move carefully, scavenging for supplies and avoiding patrols. The girl, whose name he learned was Lyra, remained cautious but gradually allowed him to tend her wounds. He observed her closely, noting how even a small movement caused pain, and how her strength was remarkable, even in weakness. She was not merely a princess in title. She was a warrior bred for survival. During one of their excursions for clean water from a hidden spring, the canyon shook violently. Kale grabbed Lyra instinctively as a massive rockslide thundered down the cliffs. Dust choked their lungs, and debris fell around them, yet Kale's calm, methodical movements guided them to safety. Lyra's trust in him deepened with every life-saving act. "You are not like other humans," she said once, her voice tinged with awe. "You face danger willingly." Kale shook his head. "We face danger because it is there. We endure it because that is how we survive." She studied him, and then her wings fluttered weakly. "You understand strength differently." As the days passed, Kale noticed something remarkable. Lyra's injuries, though severe, healed rapidly under his care. Her species had resilience, but Kale's techniques, combining human ingenuity with careful observation of Arvani biology, accelerated her recovery. The bond between them grew, not through words, but through shared struggle and quiet understanding. One night, as Kale sat tending to a minor burn on her wing, Lyra asked, "Do you fear the Queen?" Kale paused, considering. "Not really. Fear is for those who cannot act. I act because I must. That is all that matters." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the starlight above. "You are unlike any human I have ever encountered. You do not bend to danger. You confront it, perhaps. That is why you can touch me without consequence." The weight of her words settled over Kale. He realized that it was not merely his skill that kept them safe, but his willingness to risk himself without hesitation. The Arvani, raised in fear and power, could not comprehend such audacity. That audacity, Kale understood, was the true human strength. Weeks turned into a month. Lyra's strength returned, her wings gleaming with renewed vitality. Kale knew that soon the Queen would discover her absence. Yet neither of them spoke of the inevitable confrontation. They moved with caution, avoiding patrols and practicing evasive maneuvers, Kale's knowledge of terrain and Lyra's agility making them a formidable pair. Finally, the moment came. The Queen's emissaries arrived, scanning the canyon with deadly precision. Kale and Lyra were hiding among rocks, every muscle tense. Lyra whispered, "I am ready. I can face them." Kale shook his head. "You do not have to. Let me handle this." When the emissaries discovered them, Kale stepped forward calmly, showing no sign of fear. The Arvani patrols paused, puzzled. Humans did not act like this. They fled or froze. Kale's steady gaze and deliberate movements made them hesitate. "I am a medic," Kale said firmly. "I have healed your princess. I risked my life because no one else dared." Do not harm me. The lead emissary hissed in disbelief, then signaled to the others. The weight of Kale's courage and clarity created a ripple of uncertainty. The Arvani, accustomed to fear dictating interactions, were momentarily unbalanced. Lyra stepped forward then, strong and graceful, her injuries long healed. She looked at her daughter's protectors, and then at Kale, and for the first time, her voice carried authority. "She saved me," she said simply, and that was enough. The emissaries did not attack. They bowed slightly, retreating to report to the queen. Lyra turned to Kale, a rare smile touching her lips. "You are extraordinary." Kale shrugged, though a small smile appeared. "I only did what had to be done." In the days that followed, the queen herself arrived, her presence commanding and vast. Kale faced her calmly, not out of arrogance, but because he had nothing to lose. The queen examined him, her alien eyes piercing, and then looked at her daughter. "You protected my child," she said, voice like rolling thunder. "And you did it without hesitation. Perhaps humans are not so weak after all." Kale nodded respectfully. "I acted out of necessity and skill. Fear is for those who cannot rise above it." The queen's gaze softened slightly. "Then you may remain. Your courage is unusual, but valued." Kale exhaled silently. The danger was not over, but respect had been earned. He had faced the impossible, healed the helpless, and confronted the might of an alien empire with nothing but skill, courage, and the refusal to fear. Lyra stayed close to him from that day onward. Though she was the queen's daughter, the bond they shared was deeper than duty. She trusted him in a way few could comprehend, and Kale understood that human resilience was not measured by weapons or armor, but by the willingness to act when all odds seemed insurmountable. On Rel,